Hey everybody, welcome to True Confessions of a Car Guy. My name is John Gavin. I decided to do this because I've been in the car business a little over 40 years. And as I've been going through all those 40 years, I'm not proud of this fact, but I've worked at 49 different dealers. Over those 40 plus years, I have seen some of the craziest stuff happen. Good, bad, the ugly, you name it. I've worked with some real characters, and I thought it would be, and I know a lot of you car guys and gals have always said this, there should be a sitcom about the car business. There have been a couple close to it, but a real sitcom, because it's nothing like any other business, I believe, that exists. So I figured, what's the next best thing? Let's do a podcast. I'm going to do a lot of the truth of what happened in the car business. And this isn't about making deals and how we made money on something. This is about when it was really fun to be in the car business. I look at it and go, I got some real bad news. I'm going to go to my manager right now, but I think he's going to say $500 because your car's on fire out there. Just like that. This guy went apeshit crazy. But if I would have stayed longer, it would have killed me because all we did was party. It was just a nonstop party. The car business is a pretty, let's just say we're a playful crowd. We like to enjoy life. They all have toys. They all have nice watches. They all have nice houses. And they all like to go out. So I don't know if I could use that one.
No,
but that was so funny.
No, that
one won't go. They threw keys on top of roofs. They took titles and burned them. They did all kinds of crazy stuff. We've created our own monster. We any problem that the car business has, we've created it. But we had a fun time getting there. And all you car guys and gals who are out there who got stories like mine, you want to send them in to me, I'd be more than happy to read them or have you on the show. Send it to confessionsofacarguy@gmail.com and we'll all laugh. That really happened.
Welcome everybody to episode number 5 of True Confessions of a Car Guy. It's me, Badgie, alongside the host of the show, John. Welcome again to episode number 5, John. How's everything going today?
Everything's great. Every day's a holiday for me. You know that, Badgie.
Yeah, and hopefully one day for me too. Tonight's a very special night. We have a very special guest that will join us in just a second here, who's been in the news recently with what's going on in his battle with the FTC, and also a friend and a contributor to us as well. I'm going to bring in James, and I know you know him very well, so I'm just going to move out of the way, bring him in, and then let you guys discuss and talk. So welcome to our podcast, James. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Hey. So Jimmy, welcome to True Confessions of a Car Guy podcast. Finally.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah, thank you. One time Badgie introduced me as a legend, and my wife listened back. She goes, "Did he call you a legend?" I was like, "Yeah, I think he did."
Yeah, that's funny.
But anyhow, thanks, Badgie. We appreciate it.
You're
welcome. Thanks, Badgie.
So, one thing, Jimmy, I want to do is kind of explain our relationship and how we know each other and how we met. So I've known you for probably 30 years in the car business, because in the world, it's like 7 people removed. Well, in the car business, it's like 2. I mean, I think one of your cousins was my driver at one time at a car dealer. I've known him since he was a kid. And you've always been a stand-up guy. Nobody's ever said a bad thing about you. And then I was lucky enough to work for Cox Automotive and be your performance manager. And I sat in on your meetings with your directors a handful of times. I'm going to say at least 4, maybe 5. I don't remember. My memory is not as good. I'm getting older. So, and I got to say, after reading all the FTC's complaint on you, I never once heard you utter any of those words that get everybody's money, whatever it takes, jam this down, make them do this. It's just not you. No. So I just want everybody to know this is not something that Jimmy and I talked about. I've never been out to dinner with you, never been out to lunch, never had a drink with you. It was purely business, and you're the most professional GM I've ever dealt with. I'm just going to put it that way.
I appreciate that. I really do.
So you were on the Car Dealership Guys podcast, which I got a lot of emails. Why didn't Jimmy do your podcast? Well, the truth is the guy's been around for a long time. He's got 200 plus shows, and I got 4. So this was good for Jimmy and I wanted Jimmy to succeed. So Jimmy would have done my show anytime.
Yeah, and it had nothing to do with that. It was, they called me, and a friend of a friend called me. He goes, hey, do you want to talk to that car dealership guy Saturday night? I said, sure. He called me up. I talked to him for 2 minutes. He goes, you want to do the show on Tuesday? I said, all right. I'm not going to tell my lawyer. I'm just going to go do it. And
was anything scripted? Was anything scripted with that guy?
I'll be honest with you. I coordinated through email with his assistant, and then I talked to him about 1 minute before the interview started. He was checking my lighting and my sound, and I said, we haven't discussed what you're going to ask, because I'm not going to tell you anything, because I don't want to. I'm just, the way we do it is the way we do it. I was like this. All right, let's rock and roll. And that was it.
Well, I've got a lot of emails from a lot of people, and I would like to, maybe throw a half dozen unscripted questions at you. Yeah. And are you up for that? You game?
You know what? It's real easy to answer questions about my career, right? Or what happened at Lead or anything, because I don't lie. So there's no tough question. I'll set the record straight, and I'll call a liar, and I'll call the truth.
Fair enough. All right. Well, let's give it a whirl. So the first one I have is on December 19th, 2024, this FTC, they filed the federal lawsuit against you for $216 million, and which to me is absurd. But how did you feel that day? What happened that day in your head?
So I got to back up a little bit, and then I'll get to that day. So when I was at Leader and got the CID, Civil Investigative Demand, that was in December 21st of 2022. And in the investigative demand, they wanted deal backs from 2018 to 2022. Well, I got there in 21. So I felt like I wasn't really worried at all, because I was like, even if something happened before I got here, it's got nothing to do with me, And I wasn't afraid for the truth to come out. I wanted to give them all the things they wanted. Corporate attorneys wanted to slow roll a little bit, which I think the FTC in hindsight thought I was slow rolling it. And so while the FTC cannot contact current employees, they could only contact previous employees, right? So when I stopped working at Leader 8 months later in August of 2023, I thought my phone was going to ring off the hook from them, bring me in, question me. Hey, again, I still wanted to help Leader because we didn't do anything wrong. And my team didn't do anything wrong. And the guys on ground didn't do anything wrong. And it was a special time, So my phone never rang. And I was at a short period of time, a new job. And I get to my new employment email address, a demand letter from the FTC saying, we want $20 million. Call us if you want to negotiate. And I remember saying, oh, no, what do we negotiate? I didn't understand. So I hired an attorney, great guy. His name was Thomas Ray. He was with the Department of Justice for several years, went into the private sector, and I hired him. And for the next 6 months, we were going back and forth on showing them. So a lot of the proof that I had was considered attorney-client privilege, because I was directed by corporate, attorneys. But you can't use those emails. You can't use those text messages. So a lot of stuff, it's frustrating, I can't use because it's privileged material. So after the demand letter, they finally said, okay, we're going to sit down and talk with James Douvas. So we went to the federal building, me and my attorney. I remember there was 10 attorneys there, 6 from the FTC and 4 from the Attorney General's office, and just me and my attorney. And I'll never forget, they said, we might need 2 8-hour sessions. And I was like, well, that's great, And I'm thinking they just have to hear my side of stuff, and I got 100 witnesses that'll come forward. And the first thing they say is, and let me back up a little bit. In the complaint, they make my stomach turn, because who they have painted me and put quotes in, that is the exact opposite person of who I am. So when you're reading the complaint and you read and you understand that this complaint is about me, it's not about somebody else, and I'm like this, are they crazy? And then now it's online, right? It's filed, and everybody's calling me from Canada, auditors, previous employees from Canada, current employees from Leader, previous people that worked for me. They're like, Jimmy, this is not you at all. How they even please call me as a witness? I mean, if I show you my phone that has blown up, 300 individuals want to come and testify, and please put me down. Please put me down. Please put me down. So we get to the FTC meeting, and the first thing they tell me is, well, we want to apologize how we painted you in this complaint. And I was like this. I'm thinking to myself, then why did you say it? If the first time you meet me face to face, you're going to apologize for what you put in the complaint. And my attorney was, knocking me under the desk. And, we talked for about an hour and a half, and they just cut the conversation short. It was either they didn't like what they were hearing, it wasn't based on their narrative, or they were past the point of no return, and they were just going to file on me anyway. And I think that meeting was in September, October of 24. And then when my attorney goes, the last time we talked to the FTC, he goes, James, I'm not going to even tell you what they said. He goes, I just told them to file in federal court. And in the meantime, me and this attorney, he understood my integrity, everything. He knew that it was all BS. And so he goes, you just got to take it to federal court. I said, okay. So he passed the baton to my current attorney, Mark Lefevre, out of Burridge. Both great guys. But December 19th, 6 days before Christmas, which is usually how they do it, $216 million lawsuit. I just was more offended because I spent 25 years preaching and doing the exact opposite of all the allegations in this lawsuit. It's mind-blowing. So I would say that, the FTC has a different set of rules, right? And it's not normal court. And, without getting into and splitting hairs and everything, they don't follow the same due process, right? And so it's a different world, and it's incredibly difficult and frustrating because it's not like a normal court proceeding. But it was a rough day for me. It was a rough day.
Well, I can only imagine it. And the experience that I've gotten from reading about the FTC, it seems like they go after more monetary gains than they do judicial, because they really don't have any legal right to do, I guess, anything criminal, correct?
Yeah, and and here's what else I'll tell you, right? And again, this is all public, knowledge.
Right.
So they hit you at such a high number, these dealer groups, right? And the dealer group usually settles with them on, 10 or 15 or 20 cents on the dollar, whatever it is, because their legal team says, hey, it's going to cost you more money to go to trial on this. And so it's an economic decision for the dealer groups, right?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that they're admitting guilt. It's more like, well, it's going to be cheaper just to settle. But now Asbury, if you have deep pockets, they're going to stand up and they're going to fight. And so I'm following that case very closely, and I'm happy for them.
Well, I'm rooting for you. And as far as those people all calling you, this is a new podcast that just came out, and I have an overwhelming amount of emails of people coming and saying, I've been trained by Jimmy. I've been mentors by Jimmy. He's never said so. And me knowing you over the carb is so close that the shitball, which guy it is. You know what I mean? We know. Yeah. And you're not on that list. I'm not on that list. We do business. I got plenty of referrals. I know you get 30, 40 referrals. I can remember waiting outside your office to get in for that meeting, and you talking to, 5, 10 people about cars that were just your personal friends.
Yeah, just my,
So
right.
I know it's realistic. So
Yeah.
the FTC was quoted as saying that there were a bunch of bogus market adjustments on new cars. What can you expound on that?
So again, a real different time during COVID, right?
Yeah.
Supply chain shortages, no new car inventory on ground. Used cars are going through the moon. And it was a tough time to buy. And I told all my referrals, don't buy right now, unless you have to. And so, again, if a used car, John, you're a used car guy, you're a performance Cox Automotive. Car guys, they understand. So if I have a 1-year-old car with 10,000 miles going through a Manheim wholesale auction for $10,000 over original MSRP during COVID, what do you think the new car's doing?
Exactly.
The new car's doing the same thing. So
sorry.
All my competitors are still selling the same thing, right? And so let's just say I decided to, we're just going to sell cars at MSRP. And technically I'm selling them for 10,000 under market, right? I mean, I'm being negligent as a vice president of operations if I'm doing that. If I'm selling cars $10,000 under market, I'm being negligent towards the company. And so I just founded, let's just go sell at the fair market. And so that's what we did. But again, right, let's back it up a little bit. We're not the only industry, right? So Rolex watches, used ones, were going 3 times the original MSRP.
Yep.
Why do they have, all our new cars said, please call for price, every single one. Because the market was changing every day.
Yeah.
And so if you go to a nice restaurant and there's lobster or Dover sole on the menu, what is it? It's market price, MP.
Price. Yeah.
Because the supply is low and the demand is high and it's changing daily. And so that wasn't different in the car business for those 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years. Yes. And that's what we were going through. But on the flip side, let's think about this pre-COVID. I was running a Nissan store, and Nissan Sentras happened to be cold as ice. We were selling them for 3,000 under invoice because that was the market. Yeah. Nobody wanted them. So
nobody sent you any kind of lawsuit for that one, did they?
And then here's what I'll tell you. G63 market, G-Wagons, Mercedes, they were $100,000 over MSRP. 100,000. Was anybody complaining? No, because that's the market. That was the market on it. It's not just one guy decided to charge 100,000 and everybody, only one person bought it. So that was the rough part when I heard bogus market adjustments.
Well, I think I said in the podcast prior, back in I think it was 85, 2.9 came out for the first time ever on Dodge Caravans. It might have been 89. My brain's not as good. It's either 85 or 89. But that's when market adjustment starts. That's when addendums started, because first time ever, customers are flocking to buy a van that really was not that easy to sell. It was kind of, nobody wanted to be in the mom truckster. So I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. As a PM working for Cox Automotive, this was happening at almost every dealership I talked to. So that was the one thing. Another one, they claimed that you didn't disclose the manufacturer origins of vehicles. What is that all about?
So I was like, what does that mean? So we found out that they meant previous Canadian automobiles. So going back when I first started there, we had no new cars on ground, right? Used cars were scarce. The executive chairman of the board was affiliated with a wholesale company in Canada, and he goes, hey, maybe we could ship in 150 used cars. That'd be great, I said, and as well as our buying team, and you had met a lot of them, as well our used car directors sourcing other ones, as well as our KBB buying center, like the whole kit and caboodle. So I said, okay, that's fine. So, but they had to sit at the port for 30 days. It's a real rigorous, intense, to bring in a Canadian unit. You have to change the kilometers to odometers. There's a lot of paperwork involved. Title has to be switched over. So we brought in, so funny, because when I read the complaint, I'm like, manufacturer origins, what does that mean? So the attorney told me they're Canadian cars. So I called my used car buyer, Don't want to mention any names. Called my used car director. I said, how many previous Canadians did we sell? They're like, Jimmy, just that first influx of cars when the executive chairman of the board told us to buy 147, 150 cars. That's it, I said? They're like, yeah. So we sold 25,000 to 30,000 used cars, but we're talking about 150. But now let's back up. We bring them in. We UCI them, right? If some of them had avoided manufacturer warranty crossing the border, we got with our finance partner, and we'd slap on a drivetrain for free. And every single pre-driven car, what do they sign? A Carfax. Every single page of the Carfax. And it'll say original manufacturer, Ontario, Quebec, whatever province. So there was no reason to hide a manufacturer origin because, first of all, there's 30,000 to 50,000 cars a month that get imported from Canada pre-driven.
There's 10,000 online right now.
I was going to say, if you go to OVE in Manheim, I bet you there's 10,000.
10,000. I looked it up today. So
again, this is just the FTC not investigating. If they would have just tell me, hey, what happened with these? It's very, very simple. It happens every day in America, every day. So again, they just thought they had something, another feather in the cap or another thing to add on the plate. Didn't ask me about it. Didn't seem to. Just, hey, we're just going to put that in. And so they're complaining about less than 1% of our pre-driven automobile sales.
all right, next one. So the FTC is alleging that you forced add-ons on people. How did they come to that theory?
I don't know how they came to it. Well, without saying anybody's names, I think we have one or two disgruntled employees. We won't mention initials either. I think they had one or two disgruntled employees and they just took the ball and ran with it. And now when we're going to go to trial, and I'm going to have 100 people, discredit. But I don't know how they came to the notion. So when I first got to Leader, I remember touring the dealerships and meeting the GMs and meeting the whole team. And I remember seeing an addendum on one of the cars, paint protection. And I can't remember the company. And so I remember getting the company. And when I got back to the office, I called the company in. And we had a meeting. I said, how long have you been doing the paint protection on the cars here? They said, since 2018. I said, it's 2021. Nice. I said, well, how many claims have you paid? And they're like, they both looked at each other, and they looked at me like I had a third eye, on my forehead.
Right.
And they're like, we haven't paid any claims. And I was like this. So you guys have sold X amount of product for 3 years, 3.5 years, and you haven't paid one claim? Well, that's not good. And so we need to bring in a credited company, right? That's got a good track record, that's has good backing, that pay claims when claims are, administered. And so I brought in Xylon, right? Not to mention any big dealer groups. All the big dealer groups use them. They're a national company.
They're huge.
They're huge. Yes. They pay claims. They do it the right way. Mm-hmm. Again, I don't know the exact details, but I think our Xylon penetration, some dealerships had 80%, some had 20%, Our Xylon penetration was between 60 and 80%. Our LoJack penetration was between 30 and 50. Well, if it was a forced add-on, wouldn't it be close to 100?
Yeah.
So again, I just don't think they investigated too much. I just think they take the ball and run with it. And again, I think they just want people to settle. And that just, I don't like being bullied. I hated bullies in high school. I hated bullies in grade school. I believe the FTC is a bully, and I'm not going to get bullied. But let me tell you about a small experience. I took my daughter to lease a car, and I won't say the manufacturer. It's right by my house, and it's an AutoNation store. Great people there. So we test drove it. She liked it. We're going to do the lease. The salesman comes out and goes, hey, just so you know, the car already has tinted windows in it and 3M door edge guards and the mirror guards. And I said, okay, well, how much is it? And I forgot what he said, $699 or $899. So I looked at my daughter. I said, what do you think? She goes, well, tinted windows are good in Florida. I was like, well, that's a good point. And she goes, and I'm going to be in a parking garage, so I think the door edge guards will be good. And so we found value in it, right? It was already on the car, but nobody forced us to take it. If I didn't want it, I just go to a different dealership. all these people that the FTC says people were forced and tricked, and I've never forced somebody to buy a car in my life. I've never had to trick somebody to buy a car in my life. And this is what I'll tell you, John, and I think you would probably agree with me. If the FTC attorneys had a proper product presentation on Xylon and LoJack, half of them would buy it.
I totally agree with you. All right, so this one's kind of a tough one because as I read through all the pages, the 68 pages of your case, the one thing that came up were emails and communications. One of the emails says that you stated to your managers this verbal only communication, and the other one was to tread carefully. Can you tell me what that was about?
Yeah, so that's the funny thing. There's two statements I made. So if you could go back and interview 300 or 500 people that have worked for me or have been in a meeting with me, you'll hear me all the time say, hey, tread carefully. If there's a customer in front of you, I want you to think it's the Attorney General's office. I want you to dot all your I's, cross your T's, be transparent, and do it the right way so you can protect the company. And so, they want to take one small excerpt of an email. They don't want to read the rest of the email, though. And they just said, oh, he said tread carefully. It's almost like they were alleging that I was trying to coach somebody on how to be deceptive, which I've never had a coach or never would coach somebody on how to be deceptive. And as far as the verbal only, that's real easy. I just hate wasting my manager's time. So I said, if a guy's calling from Oklahoma and he wants an out-the-door price, and you're a Chevy, Hyundai, Toyota, Kia, Honda, I said, there's 500 dealerships between us and him. I said, if you give him an out-the-door price, he's just going to take it to his local person and beat it by $100. I said, you'll never see him for service. You're never going to see him. So I always told him, if you want to get shopped, put it into email form. If you want to close the customer on the phone, and build a rapport with the customer and common ground, you might be able to sell them a car. So verbal only for me, I've always been able to sell a car verbally easier than ever.
So I have defended you on these two items once before because I told you earlier, I think you're one of the best GMs or at that time, vice president or whatever you were that I've ever worked with. And there's two things that tell me that is one, you treated that company like it was your own. And that's why you protected them and told these, and that's what guys like me do. And guys we treat it like it's our own. When I work for an owner, he's taking care of my wife, my family, my kids. Yep. I do anything. I'll take a bullet for him. Honestly, There's some I take a bullet for. And the other one is there's so much lost in translation when you text or email. There's no inflection in your voice and what you're saying. So I knew that was total BS, but I just wanted to ask.
They got a couple quotes, and I think it's from this one ex-employee, and I hope it is. And I can't wait to get to trial. This person's, known drug user, pathological liar, unethical. That's why they got fired. I'm 52, right? I know all the bad people in the car business, and I know all the good ones, and I'm not one of the bad ones. So
yeah, exactly. So, all right, last question. So one of the other accusations or one of the other alleged things you did or was happening was we were asking or getting fake dealer reviews. What can you tell me about that?
So I was always a big proponent about, and this is before even Google reviews, right? When we were back in the car, we were getting good surveys from customers, right? Hey, when you get your survey in, if you're not 100% satisfied, can you please let me know? So when Google reviews started being, sometimes if I'm out of town, I go look at a restaurant, I'm just looking at the reviews, right? And if it's got bad reviews, I'm just not going there. So when we got to Leader, the reviews were horrible. I mean, when they tell you atrocious, I said, we got to change it. I said, and the only way we're going to change is if we actively ask our customers for reviews. And so the FTC is under the impression that you have to sell something to get a review. Well, it could be the lady that came in for an oil change and said, hey, they had a great assortment of coffee in the waiting room, 5 stars. It could be a mom that says, hey, I love where my son works. He comes home happy every day and tells me what a great place it is to work. 5-star review. It could be, hey, I went in there. I didn't buy a car, but I got treated with respect, and they just didn't have the inventory, but I'll be back. So there doesn't have to be a transaction to leave a good review. And I told my team all the time, you have to ask for a good review, because a lot of the people that are happy, they'll just send you another customer or tell you, hey, you did great. And,
That's right.
They don't know the importance of reviews. And the bad reviews, you never have to ask for them. They just come.
Right. That's right.
And a lot of those bad reviews come because of poor follow-up from the salesman or from the sales managers. That next day, hey, are you happy with your car? Are you 150% satisfied? A week later, are you 200% satisfied? So I think COVID made some managers and salesmen lazy, right? And they stopped doing the follow-up and probably got away from the basics. But like I said, if I ask a customer for a good review, there's nothing wrong with that. I just got a haircut Monday. Walk out of the barbershop, boom, my phone text message comes. Leave us a 5-star review and get $5 off your next haircut.
Yeah.
If they had a lot of the money, the FTC would be all over them for that. That's buying for somebody's. So it's just a weird time. I've never instructed anybody to get a fake review or anything like that. I would, in pay plans, we said, hey, if your Google reviews are higher than whatever it was, 4.2 or 4.3 or 4.5, you get a certain bonus. But I mean, actively farming for good reviews from your customers or from your service customers, there's nothing wrong with that. And so I didn't understand the fake review part either.
Yeah, and today the manufacturer almost makes the salesperson, if you don't get a certain review level, you don't get paid on some monies. I mean, you got to ask.
Greatest story for you. Hyundai had a great program where if you got a bad survey from them, they gave you 3 days to fix it. So whether it was refund money to the customer or fix the but it was great.
Whatever it was, get them something. Send them mats, a key. I'll give you something.
Right.
But So really that, you know what, Jimmy, the rest you've already talked about on the other podcast and it's in the paper. And that's really wanted to ask you. I feel that if the FTC doesn't back off you and take this away from, or just, throw it out. Now I know that came out today that the judge turned it down or something. But if you're guilty, we're all guilty. I'm guilty. Every single car guy that I know is guilty because we all do this. It's been going on for 30 years. And then to go after just one guy for this crazy amount of money who works for a privately held or publicly held company, to me is crazy. So what I really like to say to all these car people that are watching this right now or heard about it or know you, please go and share this. It's not for me. There's no monetary gain. I don't give a shit if it gets popular or not. I have fun doing this. I get to talk to some of my friends, and Jimmy's happens to be serious most of the time. It's just, we're talking about things that happen to car business, like Jimmy's talking about Hyundai, etc. But please share this and get the public to have some kind of outcry about having the FTC look at this and say, hey, this isn't what it seems, or this isn't Jimmy, and this shouldn't be happening.
And one last thing, and then we'll go, and I got all the time in the world. I think, John, what I want to tell you, so I'm not looking for sympathy or pity. I don't feel sorry for myself at all. I'm a big boy. I don't care about that. I'm aggravated though.
Yeah.
And my lawyer sees my aggravation. I'm more aggravated because the people that know me, the way they painted me in this complaint, I'm telling you, is the exact opposite person that I am. And I know you got a bunch of emails and support, and I'm telling you, my text messages blow up. And, I gave my number out to car dealership guys, and everybody thought I was crazy.
I saw that.
But I had attorneys from across the country calling me, saying, hey, give me your attorney's number. I had car guys from California call me, hey, we need your support. Hey, what do you need from? And, guys were like, do you want us to start me a GoFundMe page? I said, no. I said, just comment, like, and share it. That's all I told them.
Well, Jimmy, you've been doing this 30-something years, right?
30 years.
30 years. And like I said, I've been around. I've never once heard a bad word about you, and everything is just so opposite. And I've sat in the meetings. I've been there. I knew when I saw the one complaint about the fourth. First of all, you have everything lined item because I've seen the bill of sale. They got to read it. They got to sign off. You have them sign every page of almost every document. So it's just to hear their alleged items was, to me, was just absurd. It's absurd because it's not you. So
it never will be either.
No, it's not. You work too hard to get where you're at with your reputation, and that's all you got at the end of the day.
Do you know how many owners of big dealer groups, they're calling me and saying, hey, this is ridiculous. This is crazy. Or, everybody's petrified of the FTC because, like I said, first of all, you could sue anybody, right? You could sue a ham sandwich. But the way the FTC operates is, it's almost like they operate with their own laws. Everybody's afraid because they'll hit you so high that, they can make somebody, if you're not a substantial dealer group, they can, shut your lights off. They're a very, very unfair and bully federal agency.
Yeah. Well, they're under a lot of scrutiny across the whole country. I mean, they don't take anything to the criminal level. They just go after monetary gains, which to me, I know they're trying to help the supposedly the customers, but it seems like they single out the car business. Like you said, I get everywhere I go, I'm upsold. I don't care what it is. My bug spray guy out here upsells me when he comes. I mean, everybody.
And me, so I'm not working, and so me, I'm So all day I'm on the computer. So I find out that previous administration, right? Lena Khan, I think she was the commissioner. Like 4 days before she left, she filed suit against Pepsi. And then now, if you Google it, they just dropped the suit against Pepsi. It's almost like on her way out, she just wanted to sue Pepsi. And then another crazy one, you got to Google this one too. They said Ameritech was sued for $58 million because they were the fastest 5G network, allegedly. But at Tuesday from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m., they were not the fastest 5G network. And so it's false advertising.
Yeah.
You can't make it up.
No, you can't make that stuff up. Well, I'm really glad you came on. I'm
Absolutely.
really glad we cleared the air on some of this stuff because I want you to be okay out of this.
Were those questions from viewers that emailed you or called you?
Some were emailed, some were from previous shows. We did, I don't know if you know, we did 4 shows and 2 of them have been about you. 33 now. 3 we've been doing, because to me this just hit me in my heart because I know you're a good man, and this just isn't right to do this. So I had to at least do something about it. But it really need all these car people to step up, take anything. I
think a lot of them are afraid to post a comment.
It could be, but they can't sue everybody. So we outnumber every other bit. I mean, there's millions of car people. So just share it and post it and like it and everything else that goes with it. But we got to get this right because this isn't fair. It's just not fair. That's about.
And so I've been reading a lot, right? Internet and maybe in my next life I'll be an attorney or something. I feel like I've educated myself in the last 2 years. But here's what I'll leave you with, and it really made me think. And so you're judged by the force of your enemies, and that really made me think. And I said, okay, and it really made me think. So I want you to think about that.
Yeah.
You're judged by the force of your enemies. So that's that.
Well, Jimmy, you're my guy. You'll always be my guy, and I'm always rooting for you. All right.
Listen, now, can we go out for dinner or lunch or something so you don't have to?
Now we can, but don't forget you got to come down and visit me. I'm in South Carolina.
I got a lot of time on my hands.
There you go. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you,
All
guys.
right.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks, Badgie.
No problem. We wanted to thank you for joining us, James, and for sharing what's going on and with your case. And you have our support. And also, if you look at, for those of you who are watching this for the first time, if you look at episode number 1, where we were talking about it, there's an outpouring of support, comments from people, not just people who have worked with you, but also people who are bought cars from you. There are people customers who were on there who are outraged at what's happening. So, and we encourage everyone, like John was saying, to share this. We're doing this right. This is something fun for us. I just drove an hour and a half in Chicago traffic to come home, and this is my little getaway of being in the car business on a daily basis. So, and whatever happens in the future happens. So we're doing this not only for fun, but also to educate people as well. And so please share. We got to get the word out. Social media is very powerful, and we want a lot of people to hear this and to see this and to engage. And and we know that when everything is said and done, this shouldn't even be an issue. But again, we thank you for joining us.